One morning, Lily walked into school wearing her brother's oversized red sweatshirt. The sleeves were long, and it was clear the sweatshirt wasn't her size. The moment she entered the hallway, a few classmates noticed. "Why are you wearing your brother's sweatshirt?" a girl said loudly. A boy laughed and added, "Couldn't you get your own clothes?" Others joined in, whispering and mocking her. "Maybe she's too poor. She always wears old stuff." Lily kept her head down. She didn't answer. The sweatshirt meant a lot to her, but she couldn't explain that to kids who only wanted to laugh. In class, she sat quietly at the back. She tried to focus, but the words echoed in her mind. At lunch, the teasing continued. A group of kids pulled on her sleeve. "Does your brother even know you stole this?" Lily stayed silent again. That afternoon, when she got home, her mom asked, "Lily, what's wrong?" "Nothing," she whispered. Her older brother Jason guessed the truth. "They teased you about the sweatshirt, didn't they?" Lily nodded. Jason put a hand on her shoulder. "Don't let them get to you. That sweatshirt isn't just mine, it's family, it's love." The next day at school, the same thing happened. Kids laughed as soon as they saw her. "You wore your brother's sweatshirt again," one boy shouted. But this time, someone else noticed. A tall man in a suit was standing near the principal's office. He was the rich CEO the school had invited. He saw the way Lily walked, the way other kids mocked her. He said nothing yet. But he remembered something from his own past. He too had worn clothes that never fit, and he too had been laughed at. And now, watching Lily, he knew there was a story behind that red sweatshirt. A truth no one else understood. The rich CEO, whose name was Daniel Carter, stood silently near the office door, watching Lily. The way she lowered her head, the way the laughter followed her, it struck him deeply. He remembered being that child. He remembered what it felt like to walk into school, and know that everyone was waiting to find something wrong with him. Daniel had come to the school for a business reason. He was considering funding a new library and sponsoring scholarships. But in that moment, business wasn't on his mind. He was thinking about the little girl in the red sweatshirt. Lily sat in her classroom, pretending to write in her notebook. Her teacher introduced Daniel to the students. "Class, today we have a special guest. This is Mr. Daniel Carter, a successful CEO who wants to share a few words with you." The students clapped politely. Lily didn't even look up. Daniel spoke about working hard, believing in yourself, and never letting circumstances define you. The children listened, some excited, some distracted. But Daniel's eyes kept moving toward Lily. He could see the sweatshirt, the same one the other kids mocked. At the end of his talk, the teacher invited students to ask questions. Hands shot up quickly. "How much money do you make?" one boy asked. "Are you famous?" A girl giggled. Daniel smiled and answered patiently. But then he noticed Lily, still quiet, still hidden. He pointed gently. "What about you? Would you like to ask me something?" Lily froze. All eyes turned toward her. She shook her head. "Come on, Lily," one of her classmates said loudly. "Ask him if he wants to buy you new clothes." The room erupted in laughter. The teacher scolded the class. But the damage was done. Lily's face turned red. She wanted to disappear. Daniel didn't smile. He looked at the students firmly. "That wasn't kind. Do you know what I see when I look at her? I see strength." The class grew quiet. Nobody expected him to defend Lily. After the session ended, Daniel asked the teacher if he could have a private word with Lily. The teacher agreed. Nervously, Lily followed him into the hallway. "Why are they teasing you about your sweatshirt?" Daniel asked softly. Lily hesitated. Her eyes filled with tears. "Because it's not mine. It was my brother's. He doesn't wear it anymore, so my mom gave it to me." Daniel knelt to her level. "Do you know something? I used to wear my brother's clothes too. I didn't have anything new until I was much older." Lily looked at him surprised. "Really?" "Yes," Daniel said firmly. "And people laughed at me too. But I learned something. What you wear doesn't decide who you are. What matters is your heart, your courage, and the way you keep going even when others don't understand." Lily blinked. Nobody had ever said words like that to her before. Just then, a few of her classmates walked by. They whispered and laughed again when they saw her with Daniel. But this time, Daniel called them over. "Come here," he said. His voice was calm but strong. The kids stopped in their tracks. You think it's funny to laugh at someone's sweatshirt? Daniel asked. Let me tell you something. Do you know how I started? I had nothing. My family could barely afford food. I wore clothes from thrift shops and hand-me-downs. People like you laughed at me too. But look at me now. Do you think the clothes I wore back then decided my future? The children were silent. Remember this. Daniel continued. What you laugh at today might be the very thing that makes someone stronger tomorrow. And while you're laughing, he pointed at Lily, is learning how to fight through pain. That makes her far stronger than any of you. The kids lowered their eyes. None of them dared to respond. Lily felt something shift inside her. For the first time, someone powerful had stood up for her. When she went home that day, she told her mom what happened. Her mom smiled with relief. See, Lily. You are special. You don't need to be ashamed. Her brother Jason added. One day they'll regret every word they said. That night, Lily thought about Daniel's words. She realized that her sweatshirt wasn't a sign of weakness. It was proof of her family's love and sacrifice. At school the next morning, the teasing didn't stop completely, but Lily's reaction changed. When someone laughed, she didn't cry. She didn't hide. She remembered Daniel's voice, what you wear doesn't decide who you are. The CEO's visit was supposed to be just one day. But Daniel Carter couldn't stop thinking about Lily. He asked the principal more about her. He learned that her family struggled, her mother worked 2 jobs. And yet Lily was a bright, hard-working student. That knowledge stayed with him. He had seen countless numbers, contracts, and investments in his life. But none of it moved him the way that little red sweatshirt did. He knew this wasn't the end of his connection with Lily. It was only the beginning. The following week, Daniel Carter returned to the school. At first, everyone thought it was just a quick follow-up on his business plans, but in reality, he had something else in mind. He couldn't forget Lily. The little girl in the red sweatshirt who carried herself with quiet pain. The principal welcomed him again and began discussing budgets and projects, but Daniel interrupted politely. Can I see Lily? He asked. The principal looked surprised. Lily? Of course, but may I ask why? Daniel smiled slightly. Because sometimes one student tells you more about a school than any report ever could. Lily was called to the office. She walked in nervously, clutching her books. When she saw Daniel again her eyes widened. Mr. Carter, she whispered. Yes, Lily. He said warmly. I came back because I wanted to talk with you again. She sat down, unsure of what to expect. Tell me something, Daniel asked gently. What do you dream about? What do you want to become one day? Lily hesitated. Nobody had ever asked her that seriously. Finally, she whispered. I want to be a teacher. I want kids to feel safe at school, not laughed at. Daniel nodded slowly. Her answer touched him. That's a powerful dream. And I believe you can do it. Her lips trembled. But what if people keep making fun of me? What if they never stop? Daniel leaned forward. Then you get stronger. Every time they laugh, you remind yourself that they don't control your future. You do. Lily felt a flicker of hope. She had never heard anyone speak like that. After their conversation, Daniel asked the principal for a tour of the classrooms. As they walked, he noticed how some kids still whispered when Lily passed by. He stopped them. Do you know what courage looks like? Daniel asked the group of children. They shook their heads. He pointed at Lily. It looks like this. She wears what she has, and she shows up every day anyway. That's braver than any joke you can make. The kids went silent. Word spread quickly across the school the CEO liked Lily. Suddenly, the same kids who mocked her grew quiet. Some even tried to be friendly. But Lily wasn't fooled. She knew how fast kids could change their words. That evening, Daniel visited Lily's home. Her mother opened the door, shocked to see him standing there. Mr. Carter. What are you doing here? I hope you don't mind, Daniel said respectfully. I wanted to meet the family that raised such a strong girl. Inside the small living room, Daniel saw the modest furniture, the worn carpet, the signs of hard work everywhere. He admired it, not pitied it. Your daughter is special, Daniel told her mother. She reminds me of myself at her age. Her mother looked down embarrassed. We don't have much. I can't always give her what she needs. Daniel shook his head. You've already given her what matters most. Values, resilience, and love. The rest can come later. Jason, Lily's brother, joined them. He was protective of his sister and skeptical of strangers. Why are you helping us? He asked directly. Daniel respected the boldness. Because I see myself in her. And because I know what it's like to be laughed at for what you wear. I don't want her to believe those voices. The room grew quiet. For the first time, Lily saw her mother's eyes soften, as if a heavy burden had lifted slightly. Daniel left that night, but not before making a promise. Lily. You keep wearing that sweatshirt proudly. One day, people will remember it not as a joke, but as the start of your story. The next day at school, Lily walked into class differently. Her sweatshirt was the same, but her spirit had changed. When a boy muttered, "There's that sweatshirt again," Lily looked him in the eye and said calmly, "Yes. And I'm proud of it." The boy didn't know what to say. Others watched silently. For the first time, she wasn't running from the laughter, she was standing in front of it. Meanwhile, Daniel began quietly working behind the scenes. He asked the principal for Lily's academic record. He learned she was a top student despite her struggles. He spoke with teachers who confirmed her kindness and determination. Daniel started thinking about something bigger. What if he created a scholarship not just for Lily, but for kids like her? Students mocked for what they wore, where they came from, or what they didn't have. Kids who needed someone to believe in them. That night, Daniel called his board of directors. "We're starting a new foundation," he announced. "It's for children who show strength in the face of ridicule. We'll call it the Red Sweatshirt Foundation." The board members were surprised. "Why that name?" one asked. Daniel smiled. "Because it all started with a little girl who wore her brother's sweatshirt to school." The foundation became official within weeks. And Lily, without even knowing it, was becoming the face of a movement that would change countless lives. But inside her classroom, she was still just Lily, the girl trying to survive each day. The kids didn't yet understand how big her story was about to become. The next week, the announcement was made at school. The principal gathered the students in the auditorium and introduced Daniel Carter once again. Everyone expected another business speech, but this time it was different. Daniel stood on stage and said, "I came here first as a guest. But what I saw changed me. I saw a young girl mocked for something she wore. Yet that same girl carried herself with quiet strength. And she reminded me of my own childhood." The students listened carefully. Some already guessed he was talking about Lily. Daniel continued. "So I'm starting a new program called the Red Sweatshirt Foundation. This foundation will support students who face hardships. It will provide scholarships, books, and mentorship. Because no child should ever feel less just because of what they wear." The crowd murmured in surprise. Teachers clapped. Even students who once laughed at Lily were speechless. Daniel looked straight at her. "Lily," he said, "you inspired this." Gasps filled the room. Lily froze in her seat. All eyes were on her. She wanted to sink into the floor, but Daniel's steady smile gave her courage. Slowly she stood. The applause grew louder. For the first time, the name Lily wasn't followed by laughter. It was followed by respect. After the assembly, kids crowded around her. Some were awkward. "Hey Lily, that's cool." Others tried to act friendly. "I always liked your sweatshirt. It's unique." Lily didn't answer much. She knew they weren't sincere yet. But deep down she felt stronger. At home she told her mom and Jason everything. Her mom's eyes filled with tears. "Do you understand what this means? He built something because of you." Jason grinned. "See. I told you one day they'd regret it. Now they'll remember your sweatshirt forever." Meanwhile, Daniel kept thinking. His foundation had launched, but he wanted to do more for Lily personally. He arranged for her to meet him at his company headquarters. When Lily and her mom arrived, they were stunned. The glass building rose high into the sky, shining in the sun. Inside, people in suits moved quickly through the lobby. Lily clutched her mom's hand, nervous. Daniel came down to greet them. "Welcome," he said warmly. "I wanted you to see where I work. Because one day Lily, I believe you'll have your own office in a place like this." Lily's eyes widened. "Me, here?" "Yes, Daniel said. Why not? You're already braver than most people I know. He gave them a tour. Lily saw meeting rooms, computers, busy teams. Everything looked like another world. But instead of feeling small, she began to imagine herself here in the future. In Daniel's office, he spoke with her mother privately. Your daughter has rare strength. I want to personally mentor her. If you allow me, I'll guide her, support her education, and make sure she never feels alone. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, You're an answer to my prayers. Thank you. From that day on, Daniel met Lily once a week. Sometimes they talked about school, sometimes about life. He taught her lessons he had learned the hard way. How to stay focused when others doubt you. How to rise above jealousy. How to keep dreaming even when money is tight. One day he asked, Do you still feel ashamed of the sweatshirt? Lily shook her head. Not anymore. Now it feels like armor. Daniel smiled. Good. Never let anyone turn your strength into shame. Back at school, Lily's classmates noticed the change. She no longer walked with her head down. When someone whispered, she ignored it. When someone tried to tease, she looked them straight in the eye. Slowly, the laughter faded. But not everyone was happy. A few kids felt jealous. Why does she get all this attention? They muttered. She's just wearing an old sweatshirt. The jealousy grew stronger when news articles appeared about Daniel's new foundation. Headlines read, Red Sweatshirt Story Inspires CEO to Change Lives. Reporters mentioned Lily, though not by full name, and praised her courage. Other schools began contacting Daniel, asking how their students could benefit. The story spread online. People shared it as a reminder not to judge others by appearances. Through it all, Lily remained humble. She still did her homework at the kitchen table. She still helped her mom with chores. But something inside her had changed forever, her belief in herself. One evening, Jason asked her, Do you ever think about what's happening? You used to cry about that sweatshirt. Now the whole world knows about it. Lily smiled. It's not just a sweatshirt anymore. It's a story. And Daniel knew this was only the beginning. He had given her confidence. But she was the one who would decide her future. He was just opening the door. She would have to walk through it. That night, as Lily lay in bed, she thought of all the voices that once mocked her. They felt so far away now. In their place, she heard Daniel's voice, You're stronger than they know. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she dreamed not of hiding, but of becoming. 2 weeks passed. And the Red Sweatshirt Foundation gained attention across the city. More schools wanted to be part of it. Parents wrote letters of gratitude. Teachers said students felt encouraged. But at Lily's school not everyone accepted the change. Some classmates still held on to jealousy. She thinks she's special now because of the CEO. One girl whispered. Another added, If she didn't wear that old sweatshirt, nobody would even notice her. Lily heard these words but didn't respond. She remembered Daniel's advice, Don't waste energy on jealousy. Focus on your own path. At home, she studied harder than ever. Daniel often checked on her progress. He wanted her to see education as her strongest tool. Your mind is your future, he reminded her. No one can take it away. One Saturday, Daniel invited Lily and Jason to a small event. It was the foundation's first official scholarship ceremony. Dozens of kids from different schools gathered in a community hall. Some wore old shoes. Some carried second-hand backpacks, but all had bright eyes full of hope. Daniel stood on stage. Today is not about money. It's about strength. Each of these students has been judged or laughed at for things beyond their control. But they didn't give up. And now, they are recognized for their courage. When Lily's name was called, she walked up nervously. People applauded, but she felt their energy differently this time. It wasn't mockery. It was respect. She accepted the certificate, and for the first time in her life, she believed she truly belonged. After the event, Daniel pulled her aside. How do you feel? She smiled softly. Like maybe I can really be a teacher one day. You will, Daniel said firmly. And one day, you'll inspire another child the same way you've inspired me. But not everything was easy. Back at school, a group of students started spreading rumors. They claimed Lily only got attention because Daniel felt sorry for her. They said she didn't deserve anything. One afternoon in the cafeteria, a girl confronted her. "Why do you think you're so important? You're nothing without that CEO." Lily froze. For a moment, the old shame threatened to return. But then she remembered Daniel's words. She looked at the girl and answered calmly, "I don't need to prove myself to you. I'm working for my future." "What are you working for?" The girl had no reply. Other students watched silently. It was the first time Lily had spoken back with confidence. That evening she told Daniel what happened. He nodded with pride. "Good. Never let anyone control your worth with their words. The moment you answer with strength, you win." As weeks turned into months, Daniel introduced Lily to new experiences. He took her to bookstores and told her to choose any book she wanted. He introduced her to college students who were studying to be teachers, so she could see her future more clearly. Lily began keeping a journal. Every night, she wrote her thoughts. Sometimes it was about school, sometimes about the foundation, sometimes just about the sweatshirt itself. She wrote one day, "This sweatshirt will not remind me of pain. It will remind me of where I started." Jason noticed the change in his sister. "You're different now," he said one evening. "How?" Lily asked. "You don't let things break you anymore. You're stronger." Lily smiled. "I think I always was. I just didn't know it." Meanwhile, Daniel faced his own memories. Watching Lily reminded him of his childhood struggles. He remembered nights when he went to bed hungry, mornings when classmates laughed at his patched clothes. He had built his empire on those memories, using pain as fuel. Now, he wanted to make sure Lily didn't have to walk the same lonely road. But Daniel also knew something important. Life would test Lily again. Success never came without trials, and he wanted her ready for whatever came next. So one afternoon, he asked her a difficult question. "Lily, what if I wasn't here? What if tomorrow I couldn't help you anymore? What would you do?" Lily thought about it. The idea scared her, but then she answered slowly, "I would keep studying. I would keep going. Because you already showed me I can." Daniel nodded. "Good. That's the answer I hoped for. Because real strength is not about having someone help you. It's about standing even when you're alone." That night, Lily lay awake thinking about his words. For the first time, she realized that Daniel wasn't just protecting her. He was preparing her. The next morning at school, she wore the sweatshirt again. But this time, when she walked into the hallway, nobody laughed. Some looked away, some stared, but no one mocked her. The sweatshirt had changed from a symbol of shame into a symbol of strength. She sat at her desk and opened her notebook. Instead of hiding, she raised her hand when the teacher asked questions. She spoke clearly. She stopped being invisible. And quietly, she knew. This was only the beginning of her real story. The next morning, Lily walked into school with the same red sweatshirt. The laughter had not stopped. But something inside her had changed. She no longer looked down as she walked. Instead, she kept her head steady. Jason's words and her mom's quiet encouragement gave her strength. Still, her classmates kept testing her. "Doesn't she own anything else?" One girl muttered. "Maybe she sleeps in that thing." Another boy said. Lily wanted to ignore them, but the sting was still there. Every whisper felt like a pinprick. Yet, she held on, reminding herself of Jason's sacrifice, and what the sweatshirt really meant. During history class, the teacher introduced a guest. It was the same CEO who had been visiting the principal's office the day before. "Students," the teacher said, "please welcome Mr. Daniel Carter." The room went silent. Everyone had heard his name. He was known across the city for building companies, donating to schools, and mentoring young leaders. His suits, his calm voice, and his reputation made him someone who instantly demanded respect. Mr. Carter looked around the classroom slowly. His eyes sharp but kind. When his gaze landed on Lily, she shifted uncomfortably. She hoped he hadn't heard the laughter in the hallway earlier. "Success," Daniel Carter began, "is not about what you wear or where you start. It's about what you carry inside. Some of you might laugh at others for being different. But I assure you, true strength doesn't come from blending in. It comes from standing out." The room stayed still. A few students glanced at Lily. She felt her chest tighten. Was he talking about her? After class, when everyone rushed out, Daniel Carter stayed behind. He called Lily's name. She froze, then turned slowly. "Yes, sir," she asked. He studied her for a moment. That sweatshirt you're wearing, is there a story behind it? Her eyes widened. She wasn't expecting the question. It's my brother's. He gave it to me. And why do you wear it? Lily hesitated. No one had ever asked with genuine curiosity before. Because it reminds me of him. He works long hours, and he gave me this so I wouldn't feel alone. Daniel Carter nodded slowly, his face softening. I see. That's not just clothing. That's loyalty. That's family. For a moment, Lily thought she saw something in his eyes, a memory, a shadow from his past. But he quickly straightened his suit and smiled faintly. Don't ever be ashamed of where you come from, he said. One day, the very thing they laugh at will become your strength. Lily didn't know how to respond. She just nodded quietly. Later that day in the cafeteria, the teasing began again. A boy shouted, "Hey Lily, still rocking your brother's sweatshirt? Is that your fashion line now?" This time, Lily took a deep breath. Instead of walking away, she looked up. Yes, it's my brother's. And it means more to me than you'll ever understand. The table went quiet. No one expected her to answer like that. A few kids smirked, but others looked away, almost embarrassed. The power of the laughter seemed weaker now. Daniel Carter, who had stayed to tour the school, happened to walk by at that moment. He stopped and heard Lily's words. He smiled slightly, realizing she had already started to grow stronger. When Lily went home that afternoon, she told Jason what had happened. I spoke up today, she said. I told them this sweatshirt matters to me. Jason grinned. That's my sister. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone, but when you do, make it count. That night, Lily lay in bed, replaying the day in her head. She remembered Daniel Carter's words. She remembered the moment she stood up for herself. For the first time in a long time, she felt a spark of pride. The next days were not easy. The whispers didn't vanish overnight. But something was different. Lily was different. Every time someone mocked her, she thought of Jason. She thought of her mom. She thought of Daniel Carter's words echoing like a shield. Don't ever be ashamed of where you come from. What Lily didn't know was that Daniel Carter's interest in her story was only beginning. He had seen himself in her. A younger version of his own struggles. And deep down, he was already planning something that would change her life forever. The following week, Daniel Carter returned to the school. This time, he wasn't there for a quick visit, he had arranged an assembly. The entire student body gathered in the auditorium, curious about why a billionaire CEO would spend so much time in their school. When the lights dimmed, Daniel stepped onto the stage. He spoke calmly but with conviction. I grew up poor, he said. There were days I wore clothes that didn't fit, shoes with holes, and second-hand jackets. People laughed at me. But what they didn't understand was that every piece of clothing I wore carried a story. Just like Lily's sweatshirt. The room went silent. Every eye turned toward Lily, who sat frozen in the crowd. She hadn't expected him to mention her name. Daniel continued. Some of you mocked her for wearing something that wasn't new. But I see courage. I see love. That sweatshirt is not a joke. It's a symbol of family, sacrifice, and resilience. And those who laughed. Remember this one day, you may work for someone who once stood in the back of the room, wearing something you didn't understand. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Whispers spread, but no one dared to laugh anymore. Then, Daniel looked directly at Lily. Lily, would you join me on stage? Her heart pounded as she stood. Slowly, she walked to the front. The sweatshirt hung loosely. But this time it felt like armor. When she reached him, Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. This young girl has taught all of you a lesson. She didn't need wealth to stand tall. She didn't need new clothes to carry pride. What she has is something priceless. Character. The room erupted in applause. For the first time, Lily wasn't hiding. She smiled, nervously at first, then fully, as the sound washed over her. Daniel leaned toward her and whispered, never let them take your strength. This moment is yours. Later that day, as students left the auditorium, no one mocked her. Some even looked ashamed. A few offered quiet nods of respect. The laughter that once followed Lily was gone. At home, Lily told her mom and Jason everything. Jason hugged her tightly. See? I told you. That sweatshirt is more powerful than they'll ever know. Lily finally believed it. She realized that what made her different was what made her strong. And Daniel Carter. He left the school with a smile, knowing he had just changed one girl's life. But also taught an entire generation a lesson they would never forget. The girl who was once laughed at had become the girl everyone admired. And it all started with one sweatshirt, one moment, and one truth revealed. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to life. Thank you so much for giving your precious time. This was, You Wore Your Brother's Sweatshirt. Her classmates laugh, until rich CEO learns the truth.